Hey, Jimmy Talon, everybody. Freedom. Oh, this is the same news media, by the way, Jimmy, that wished Joe Frazier a happy birthday yesterday because today's Joe Frazier's birthday.
Philadelphia boxing legend Joe Frazier celebrating his birthday today. Happy birthday, Joe. Also giving back to the community. He's going to be meeting with friends and supporters at City Hall this evening.
That meeting's going to be very interesting if it happens, since he's been dead for 6 years.
Oh, Jamie, you're a stitch. Yeah, I saw that. Somebody, I don't even know that they even do any fact checking anymore. I mean, that would have been easy enough to find. Just Google Joe Frazier, and you don't have to go into the story. Just see the little summary, because they always start with the person's date of birth and then death if they've died. And I guess nobody even did that.
Well, it's funny. I said earlier, I said it'd be different if he died like last year or something. But they went into also such detail. Not only it'd also be different if they said "Happy Birthday" to Joe Frazier and just as a celebrity birthday and just kept it at that. But no, and he's going to be meeting tonight with youth of Philadelphia. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
That's pretty embarrassing. Yeah, I guess they shouldn't.
Yeah, I know.
I guess anybody can make mistakes, but that's a pretty big one. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and a little later on regarding this Russian thing, apparently it all originated at 4chan, and now some people were claiming that it was a pro-Trump guy trying to see if the media would take the bait and ruin itself, and that's an even better story. It'd be actually the only thing that would make it actually even perfect is if it was the Trump campaign that put the story out in the 4chan just to set them up.
It was so monumentally stupid. There's a couple of good articles on it in the Weekly Standard today for those who want an analysis. But there's so much about that memo that was obviously false. And the fact, if they did brief him on it or even include it in a brief, you really need. Now we need to investigate why they felt the need to do that, because
right.
I mean, there's so much about it that's so obviously suspect. And that it got this kind of publicity, it's very damaging to the credibility of the media, which they don't seem to care that they're hurting themselves with this sort of thing. They're certainly not hurting the president-elect.
It's so bad for the media now that even David French, who is a well-known never-Trumper, came to Trump's defense yesterday. So
like this memo starts off by saying that the Russians have been running this op since 2011 in order to undermine NATO. So we're supposed to believe that the Russians in 2011 thought that Mr. Trump was the key to undermining NATO. Now, Mr. Trump's been a celebrity for a long time, but I don't think that the Russian intelligence services would have thought that, the key to their foreign policy in 2011 was subverting Donald Trump, right? I mean, it's everything about it screams that it's just it's a poor hit job done for political purposes that even the politicals didn't think worth using, right?
Yeah.
So now it's and dropped at this time. It just is. It makes no sense from their own point of view. As I said, it just reinforces Trump's position. So you're right. It's going to be a fun 4 years in a lot of ways. But I think the confirmation hearings are going well for the nominees.
Yeah.
Tillerson did well. I liked his demeanor. I thought he took the tough questions from Rubio and handled them well, and I thought Corker clarified that matter well at the end. It's just, in these confirmation hearings, you really have to be more reserved than you might normally be after confirmation, because you're not allowed to speculate. You're not supposed to speculate on policies because you're not confirmed. You're not the official yet, right? So you have to be tentative, and yet you do have to be responsive. And I thought Tillerson did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, and there was the one thing that got a little dicey for him also was the questions about, the Exxon and its lobbyists and them regarding their lobbying against sanctions. But at that time, that's a corporation's behavior. That would not be you're as Secretary of State, you would be different, and so I don't see. I understand why they asked the question, but I think it's easy to be able to say, "Hey, I'm Secretary of State, not the Chairman of Exxon, and I have a different take
Jamie,
on things."
if you decided to become a communications director, let's say for the new governor, right, you would handle situations differently than you do now, and it doesn't mean that. That there's anything wrong with that. It's just that people act differently in different roles because they have different objectives. And I think most people get that, and I think most senators get that. So it's understandable. I mean, he had certain responsibilities at the company, and now he's going to have different responsibilities. But it's fair game to raise the questions, right?
Yeah, yeah. Jeff Sessions, I thought, was doing very well. A lot of the stories being told there were quite illuminating and really interesting to see how many of these allegations against him really wound up being totally false, especially the one where he...
and everybody who knows Jeff Sessions knows that they're false, okay? And the ironic thing is the heart of their argument about him on his record on race is this vote fraud case he brought. Well, he brought it on behalf of African-American elected officials who felt that they were being, cheated in an election. And I just don't see how you turn that into some kind of bad mark on his record on race. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But they tried.
Well, and the only unfortunate thing is that I wish everybody was able to listen to the confirmation hearings in their entirety, but unfortunately, once again, we have to have it laundered through the news. But nowadays, with alternative news sources, people are getting that information. So thank goodness, because if we just relied on CBS to tell us about the Jeff Sessions confirmation hearings, we wouldn't hear that side of the story, I'm sure. So
it's a tremendous thing, the fact that people are not tied into it. I mean, I remember when I started, and it was basically, the three networks.
Yeah.
And people got their news from the news at night. And I did many a press conference, which I thought went extremely well and made the points really well, and nobody ever heard about them because nobody ever reported them.
Right, exactly. Well, it's a new day, thank goodness. And Jim Talent, always good to talk to you, my friend. And are you going to be in D.C. for the inauguration, or?
I'm not. I'm in that week, but I'm gonna go home before the inauguration.
All right, friend.
I'll look forward to the speech on TV the same way 99% of Americans are going to hear it.
Right. I was just going up there, so I was going to see if we can hook up. But I'll talk to you again another time at Jim Talent, AEI.org. Appreciate you as always. Have a great rest of your week, my friend.
Okay. Bye-bye.